The dining room is one of the most produced plays in the country. At schools and at community theaters. It is not a well-known play, but it's produced all over the country. It is one of the more produced plays because of the nature of the ability to have many actors, use as many actors as you want to use, to structure it in many different ways. To stage it like Gurney designed it is much more difficult. With the 6 actors playing 57 characters that overlap, and the scenes overlapping, it makes it much more difficult to
That's how he did it.
Yes, with very few costumes.
And in high schools, they
might use
they have a cast of 50. 50.
Yeah, they could have many actors.
Right.
Yeah. And they can do that, and they usually have a lot of costumes. When I was working, I first learned of this play when I was going to director school at Stratford, and they used it as an example of how do you deal with a play like this when you have very little support, when what I call the actors are nude. It's their craft. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was introduced to it, and it intrigued me ever since then.
What year was it that you first were introduced?
I was first introduced to the play in 2005. Mm-hmm. And I've been working to have it produced at the Playhouse since then. And it was produced here at the Playhouse in 1986. Yeah, and it was Norm Jones from WTCM was in the play then. He was one of the actors in it. So it's been here before. So I read about 30 reviews of the play, and there were about 50% of them said it's a fluffy little play of stories, and they didn't like it very well. And the other one said this is one of the great plays of all times.
Good morning, Daddy.
Morning, Dad. All right, I'll tell Erreca in the kitchen to put away all the ice cream and cake.
Oh,
No! What?
You know what? Now go back and enjoy the party.
It's not a man, Dad.
Not a man?
It's a woman. I've been involved with a woman. And I don't know who I am, and I've got to touch base, Dad. I've got to come home.
I think I'll get a repair. You want a repair? I'll take your glass. I'll get us both a repair.
Nowadays, people eat in kitchens or living rooms, standing around, balancing their plates like jugglers. Soon, they'll be eating in bathrooms. But why not simplify the process? For example, don't let her serve the good beef eater's gin if people simply want to mix it with tonic water.
I'm all mixed up, Dad. I'm all over the ballpark. I've been seeing a crisis counselor. I've taken up a part-time job. I've been jogging 2 miles a day, and none of it's working. I want to come home. I'm going to take my children to the zoo and the park lake and the art gallery and do all those things you and Mother used to do with all of us. I want to start again, Dad. I want to start all over again.
I decided not to see you squirm by asking you to give a synopsis of the whole play.
Well, I can do
You give an
that.
oversight.
I can give you a very close, short synopsis.
Because there's 17 separate scenes.
There are 18 stories.
18 stories.
There are 18 stories that are presented the way our mind works. Our mind works, doesn't work linearly. A little bit here and a little bit there and a little story here. And that's how these stories, they run from 1935 to 1980, but they're not sequential. 1979, 1940, 1935, 1960, and they move around. And each one of these stories, like our mind works, it opens doors underneath the story, so that the dining room table is a metaphor for change. And there's social and cultural issues that underlie. Gurney is amazing that every word he writes has at least 2 or 3 meanings. There's a wonderful line, your table needs to be re-glued, re-screwed, and renewed. Well, He's talking about the table, he's talking about the actress in the scene that's trying to rebuild her life, and he's talking about societal change taking place when the play was written in 1980. All of those going on.
A lot of metaphors.
What?
A lot of metaphors.
Yes, a lot of metaphors going on. He does this so there's these wonderful stories. The challenge of the actors is that they have to be different characters in every story. And they only have 30 seconds to convince the audience of who they are and what their intention is. Because the only stories are only 3 or 4 or 5 minutes long. So that's a real challenge for the actors. Little things like actors need cues to respond with a line. And in this play, many of the cues are in a different scene. A scene that's overlapping the scene that they're taking their cues from. It's much harder to do.
Everyone's happy?
Yes.
Then I raise my glass to all of us.
To all of us.
This is your table, here are your chairs, here is the china you got on your trip to England, and here's the silver-handled carving knife, which Father used to use.
Oh, yes.
It's been a long day.
But I'm not quite sure who these people are.
It's me, Mother, Stuart, your son, and this is Fred, and Ben, and Nancy, and Beth. We're all here, Mother.
I'll get the turkey, maybe that'll help.
Yes.
I'll be lucky if I keep this spoon.
I told her I'd give you the piano and the coffee table if I could have the dining room.
Annie,
Yes, sir.
did I find a seed in my orange juice yesterday morning? I have the pleasure of your company, provided...
He says we
I
can.
said provided that you sit quietly without leaning back in your chairs and don't fight or argue.
He says we can.
I said you may.
Good morning, Daddy.
Morning, Dad. What's the other half, Dad?
Was that a crack?
No, Dad.
That was a crack, wasn't it?
No, Dad.
That sounded like a smart guy wisecrack to me, and people who make cracks like that don't normally eat in dining rooms.
I didn't mean it as a crack, Dad.
Then we'll ignore it. We'll go on with our breakfast.
Your car's here, Lizzie, for school.
Okay,
Thank you, Annie.
thank you, Annie. Goodbye, Daddy.
Goodbye, darling. Don't be late. Say good morning to the driver. Sit quietly in the car. Work hard. Run, goodbye.
So it's been a real test of the actors to be able to pull this off. And they want costumes. They want props. They want sets to help convince them of a character. I said, no, you got to do it with a nod of the head. I mean, I've got Barbara Gooderl and Molly Thompson, 75 and 82 years old, playing teeny boppers. Well, that's a challenge, and they've worked hard at it.
Did you have that in mind before you went into auditions, that
No.
you wanted to have an older cast?
No, my goal was to get the 6 or 7 best actors I could get that were willing to
Regardless of the
volunteer.
age?
No age restrictions, had the first night of auditions, there wasn't anyone here under 60.
Well, the preview that I saw, the first act last night, I was very impressed with the older actors playing very young characters.
Yes.
And I found that very intriguing.
Yeah, they do, they just, when Molly and Barbara play teeny boppers, the first scene of the second act, they're sneaking home to get into the liquor cabinet, just to sneak a drink. Well, that's a real challenge for a 75 and an 82-year-old to play teeny, how they walk, how they talk, how they move their feet, how they bounce around. And they've worked really hard at it. Equally hard when they have to go from a 6-year-old and 2 minutes later they're a 70-year-old man, and 2 minutes later they're a man having an affair at a birthday party with the wife of one of the birthday girl, or they want to have an affair. They don't quite have the courage to have the affair. So that's the challenge of this play, is how do I, as a director, support these actors to stretch themselves to play so many different characters. Each of them play 8 to 10 characters.
This won't mean much to you, but the government is systematically ruining this country.
Miss Kelly told us about the government.
Oh, really? And who is Miss Kelly, pray tell?
She's my teacher.
She decided, if you breathe a word of this, I'll strangle you. She decided that she was in love with her riding master, so she threw everything off and ran off with him to Taos, New Mexico.
You tell Miss Kelly she's wrong.
Why?
I'll tell you exactly why. If the government keeps handing out money, no one will want to work. And if no one wants to work, there won't be anyone around to support such things as private schools. And if no one is supporting private schools, then Miss Kelly will be standing on the bread lines along with everyone else. You tell Miss Kelly that, if you please. Thank you, Annie. I'll help you, I swear. I'll make my own bed, and I'll pick up my towel, and I'll try to be much more careful when I pee. No, really, I will. And I'll tell my parents not to give so many dinner parties. And I'll tell them to give you more time off, eh? I'll tell them to give you all day Sunday.
No, darling.
I'm serious, eh? Long after you've forgotten that hymn, long after you've forgotten how to factor, long after you have forgotten Miss Kelly, you'll remember these pleasant breakfasts around this dining room table. And here is your mother to prove it.
Good morning, dear. Good morning, Charlie.
I know people who leap to their feet when a beautiful woman enters the room.
So many people looked at this play and said, well, you know, it's just a bunch of stories. And it is a bunch of wonderful stories. But underneath that, it is a play, and it is a story, and it's a story of changing society. The fall of the patriarch society, and the rise of women, and the rise of gender rights goes throughout this play.
I like the fluidness of the structure of the play.
It's amazing. He does amazing on that, doesn't he?
And of every brand of audience member that comes, there's a little of something for everybody that's going to trigger a memory of an aunt, a grandmother, a father, a grandfather, an uncle.
No one will go out, leave this play without having some memories come back to say, that was me.
Mm-hmm.
When we sat around doing our book work at the beginning, we spent hours saying, well, that was me. Each of the actors. I'd never been in a play like that before. Never been with actors in rehearsals. Well, that was me. I remember that. Some of them cried because they were so intense. Intense memories, because they aren't all, the dining room is not a place where they're fun and cheery meals. You didn't see that in any of the scenes in that play.
You take your time. Tell you what, I'll send you a bill for the work I've done already.
Good. And I'll send you mine. Grandpa?
Which one are you?
I'm Nick, Grand.
What do you want?
To have lunch with you, Grand.
Well, then you're late.
I went down to the club.
Who said I'd be at the club?
My parents. My parents said you always eat there.
Lately I've been coming home.
Yes, sir.
Don't know half the people at the club anymore. I'd rather be here at my own table. Dora takes care of me, don't you, Dora?
Yes, sir.
Beginning to. I bet your father was a cabinet maker or something.
My father was a banker,
A banker?
and I was a stockbroker until I got into this.
I don't believe it.
No, it's true. I decided I wanted to see what I was doing and to touch it and to see the results. So I got into carpentry.
I'm amazed. I know some stockbrokers. Is this the support that's bad?
That's the one.
What if you put a nail in here?
Not a nail, a screw.
All right. And another one in here, or at least some household cement.
Well, they have these epoxy glues now.
All right. And cram a matchbook in here.
Not a matchbook.
A wedge, a wooden wedge.
Good idea.
See, I can do it too.
What do you want?
Oh, I don't really want anything.
Everyone that sits down with me wants something. Usually it's money. You want money?
Yes, sir.
For what?
My education, Grand.
Oh, your education, huh? Well, that's a good thing. Or it can be. It doesn't have to be. It can be a bad thing. Where do you want to be educated?
At St. Luke's School in Litchfield, Connecticut.
Never heard of it.
It's an excellent boarding school for boys.
Is it Catholic?
I don't think so, Grant.
Sounds Catholic to me.
I think it's high Episcopalian, Grant.
Oh, then it's expensive.
How many of the stories are in the first act?
There are 11 in the first act,
And then
and there are 7 in the...
seven in the second
In the
act.
second act, yeah. Second act's shorter than the first act.
What, by half,
Oh, the first act's about 55 minutes, and the second act's about 40 minutes.
about 40 minutes?
So the whole play with intermission is less than 2 hours. My goal was to, as you know, pacing is one of the most difficult things to get actors to do, to keep it moving along. Don't slow it down. It's really hard. Everybody wants to slow down. So pacing.
The image
is
that you
important.
had of this play before you went into auditions and the rehearsals, as you sit here right now, how do you feel about the investment that all the actors have put forth, all the labor of love that you've put into the play? Has it met your expectations?
Oh, yes, it has. And I think it's met the actors' expectations because they tried out because they saw this as a play that would stretch them. This is for actors. Of any play I've ever seen, this is an actor's play. This is for the actors. And they've stretched, and I think you talked to all of them, and they would say this was a lot harder than they thought it was going to be, but they feel it was worthwhile.
What's the matter, Mother?
I'm not quite sure where I am.
You're here, Mother, in your dining room. This is your table, here are your chairs, here is the china you got on your trip to China, and here's the silver-handled carving knife which Father used to use.
Oh, yes, yes.
I'm Fred, your son.
Oh, isn't that nice? Thank you so much for this lovely
Let's
gift.
sing to her.
Made of golden hair, sunshine came along with thee, and swallows in the air.
Oh, that was just beautiful. Everyone in our family played a different musical instrument.
She's coming.
Air, sunshine came along with thee, and swallows in the air.
Oh, that was just lovely.
Thank you, Mother.
But now I really do have to go home. Would someone please call my carriage and somebody find my hat and my gloves, and it's getting late, and my mother is going to be so worried because if I'm not there in time for tea.
Gurney is a guy that always hates plots. In this play, if you know, there's no plot.
Right.
There is a plot, but it's under the table. It's not on top of the table.
A lot of wonderful ideas,
Oh,
a
God.
lot of wonderful images and memories.
Yes, it is
And
wonderful.
the older that I get, boy, memories
Memories.
are the closest companion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does a wonderful job of taking these memories and creating really wonderful conflict, which is what acting is about. And each scene creates a conflict. The last scene of the first act, Memories, where the mother has Alzheimer's. She is a strong one. It's the kids that don't accept it, don't recognize it. She knows exactly where she is. She doesn't happen to be in reality, but she knows where she is. He does this wonderful job of creating this conflict that adds such texture to his words.
Well, Thomas, I'm going to be here tonight to
Good.
watch opening night. Looking forward to seeing Act 2. And I thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful behind-the-scenes information for other directors, future directors that are going to hopefully see this video and be interested in producing this play as well.
I'm always available to any budding director or anyone that wants to sit down and talk about it. Because each time I do it, I learn a lot.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Wayne.